No child deserves to live in fear. That's a phrase stitched onto the leather vests worn by members of Bikers Against Child Abuse, an international organization with chapters in many states and countries, and which now has one in Vermont. A group of the bikers showed up at the Bennington Superior Court on March 13th and 14th to lend moral and emotional support to a young girl, a former Bennington resident who had been flown up from South Carolina, as her case, which involved charges of aggravated sexual assault against a child, went to trial. Two members of their branch in South Carolina accompanied her on the flight to Albany, New York, where they were met by members of the chapter there, who then escorted her over to the Bennington courthouse. It was a somewhat unusual scene, with about 24 or so motorcycle enthusiasts standing in the hallways of the courthouse, their simple presence intended to fortify the young alleged victim as she prepared to testify against the defendant in the case. We had a chance to talk with some of the members of the club who explained what they did and why.
We started in 1995. It was done by an individual who worked with abused kids. And the goal was to try to get these children that had retracted back into themselves and not wanting to have anything to do with anybody's school, let alone, within their family. And came up with the idea of call a group of his biker friends. They went out and visited a child, and that's where we started from. And we're hitting close to 25 years doing this now.
I despise bullies, and anybody that's going to harm a child is just that. They're a bully. For me personally, I was introduced to Baca through a video that a friend sent me, and when I saw the video, I started watching it. I hadn't heard of Baca, so I wasn't aware of who they were, what they did. And so, just a couple minutes into that, it hit me, and I said, you know what, this is something I want to find out more about. It's, for me, it's obviously very fulfilling to see these kids not be afraid and come out of their shell.
Wow. There is a Vermont chapter. So actually, Vermont, we're a small chapter. We're one of the newer chapters. I got involved in it because both my husband and I ride, and we have a child in our life that was abused. And I'm also a nurse, so it was something that was near and dear to our hearts, and we found that there wasn't a Vermont chapter. So my husband and I are 2 out of the 3 original members that founded the chapter in Vermont.
I got involved with Baca because I was a victim of child abuse by a father that verbally and physically abused me. I was also sexually abused by an older cousin at 5 years old. And I'm here to help children to not live in fear of this world they live in, because I harbored that for 50 years.
We put a call out to the region that anybody that could assist in the case or at the time can make the time to come here and support the child if they're here. By us providing that support, I think it empowers the child to be able to testify, say what's on their mind, and get the facts out, instead of in cases where the child has no support and there appears at times an intimidation factor in the court. And in this case, we're here to support them. It opens them up. They feel safe, they feel comfortable, they feel they can speak, and it helps the child deal with the situation, that happened to them.
Each chapter has a child liaison. Each chapter has a hotline number. A lot of times we'll get a phone call on that hotline, whether it's from a guardian of a child or another family member of a child who says, hey, I think this child could use your help. We've also had some contact with DCF, who said, is it okay if I talk to the guardian about you guys? And then our child liaison and another member will go meet with the child and the family and let them know what we do, that we're here for them, we're here to support them. And then essentially the child decides whether or not they want us.
When I first got started and was fairly new to Baca, we were at a home. The child was in fear, and the perp was harassing, doing some things. So we were on the property, staying on the property, just outside, just so the child knew that we were there. And the kids were playing outside, and the mom came out. She was like in tears, thank you very much. And I said, no problem. This is what we do. She was like, no, you don't understand. they haven't played outside in months. So it just kind of hits you. I wasn't even thinking. I had a blessed childhood. I wouldn't even know what it was like not to be able to play outside because I'm afraid of an adult. And it didn't even occur to me that hadn't even been happening for these children because they were afraid. So that was something that really resonated with me.
What we do, the one thing that makes us kind of unique in this group is, like, we have a learning program, a training program, so we all follow the same etiquette when we come to court. We dress appropriately, we're respectful of the people we deal with, we're non-confrontational, and like everybody has said, it's the kids. Nothing else but the child matters in this courthouse, and we'll do whatever we need to do to keep that child safe. We're not a violent organization, we don't condone it, but the child is our primary point anytime we're with a kid.
Bennington County State's Attorney Erica Marthage, whose office prosecuted the case, said she was impressed by the biker group and the work they were doing.
This was the first trial in Vermont that where BACA was involved in the actual trial process, and was very skeptical initially. I was concerned about what it would be like to have a group of essentially people that look like bikers at the courthouse and with the child, and they never entered the courtroom. They were never engaging with any of the individuals, witnesses, defendant's family. They are there solely to help that child feel supported and safe. So they were entertaining her when she had to be here for long periods of time waiting. There's a lot of waiting when we're actually in trial. And they were making balloon animals in a side room with her. They took her to do a couple of activities. They always work in pairs. They are familiar with her primary caregiver. So having that type of support here for the child, I think, made a significant difference on the impact this process had on her.
A jury returned a guilty verdict in the case, and by Friday, March 15th, members of Bikers Against Child Abuse had left, but their quiet and resolute presence helped one young person through an extremely difficult experience. And they will be there again in the future, if needed. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.